Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Trollheim with your host, Rabbi Anibal, streaming live here from the congregation Shared Zedek in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Local time, 12:05. We are in Central Time for those of you who are connecting from outside Winnipeg. You may be wondering. And so welcome, everyone. Welcome, let's see who is here. Welcome, David and Brenda. Welcome, Leah. Great to see your name in the chat. Hello, Shelly. Welcome to the class as well. Yeah, Shelly's davening is back. That's awesome. That's awesome. So today, welcome Randy and Jerome. Randy and Jerome are here as well. We are going to study a little bit about this week's Parsha Beshalach. And we are going also to study a little bit about Tu B'Shvat. But I said a little bit about it because there is going to be more about Tu B'Shvat next week, because the class is going to be on Tu B'Shvat, on the real day of Tu B'Shvat. So we have an opportunity to study more and to go a little bit deeply into this wonderful day of Tu B'Shvat. Welcome, Judy Sharak. Welcome to the class. Good afternoon. Cold day in Winnipeg. I just came back from a funeral. Lots of funerals in these days. This was a very special one. The name of the deceased was Isaac Gottfried. He was a Holocaust survivor, 99 years old. Sorry, 99 and a half. He will be correcting me right now. He was very proud of 99 and a half. And he was a Holocaust survivor. And one of the few, I will say, that had the courage to overcome all the darkness and to go everywhere and retelling the story of everything he had to go through. So it was very, very special, very special. Yeah. Okay, so let's give a couple of minutes because the more people to connect so we can start with the class. With this week's Parsha. By the way, this week's Parsha also we read what is called the Song of the Sea, the Shirat Hayam. That's why it has a special name. This coming Shabbat is called Shabbat Shira, the Sabbath of the song. What is the song? Well, when the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, when they made it to the other side and they experienced that great miracle, and at the same time they saw that the Egyptian army was drowned when the waters receded, so they sang a song praising God. It is understood by the rabbis that song, the Song of the Sea, was the first communal, how can I say it, the first communal prayer sung by the Jewish people. Before, there are other prayers in the Torah, but this is the first time that a group of people were worshiping God together through what you will call in these days a sing-along experience. They were all singing the same thing. So that's why it's such a big deal. And so it's called Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea, that text in the Torah, and it's going to be read from the Torah this coming Shabbat. That's why we have a special name. And what synagogues do in this day and age, every time we have a Shabbat Shira, is to try to enhance the musical experience of the service. And that's exactly what we are going to do. We are going to have some of the kids from the youth band. Some of you remember they play for the High Holiday service at the family service. So they are coming back. Unfortunately, We are not going to have all the kids from the band. I'm still dreaming with a day that I can bring all the kids from the band to one Shabbat service during the year. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. You have to be patient, but that's my dream, to have all the kids back enhancing the music for at least one Shabbat. So that's what I want to do. Brenda, you said my father's later year he spoke to students about what he explained the Holocaust. Yeah, yeah, but I know that many were never ready to do that. Many were never ready to do that. Um, yeah, it's the sad reality of what they have to go through, right? So, without further ado, let's begin with today's class. Oh, by the way, on Saturday, it's not just Shabbat Shira. We have a special birthday for Sos Plattner. If you know her, come to sing happy birthday to her. She's a beloved congregant, and it's a milestone birthday. Don't miss it as well this Saturday. If you can come in person, it's going to be an amazing experience. Okay, from the band we have a bass player, a saxophone player, and one of the female singers. She's 11. She's amazing. So we're putting it all together. I will play the piano and Leslie will play the guitar. Too bad we couldn't get the drummer. He was not available. We have a drum kit, but we don't have the drummer. He couldn't come, and also the trumpet player was not available. He's in Toronto. Next time. Okay, let's begin. I wanna talk today to you today about not necessarily about the Shirat Hayam, because we are going to talk about that during the service on Saturday, but about the very end of the Torah, of the Torah portion for this week. It's the very end. And because right after they cross the Red Sea, they have to encounter Amalek. They were bad people. So it's an interesting parsha with highs and lows this week Torah reading, okay? Highs and lows. So this is what God said to Moses after they encounter Amalek. And this is something very important. First, let's remember who were Amalek. Amalek was a nation who attacked the Jewish people, but not in a direct way. The Torah says specifically that Amalek attacked the weak from the people. Usually, you know what happened when you have almost like a million people going from one place to another. It's inevitable that you are going to have a group of people at the very back of the formation that they are the people that they cannot move that fast, and those people are more vulnerable. So it looks like Amalek were not nice, and they attacked that section of the Jewish people, which is something very coward to do. And we don't read about this for any other nation, not even the most disgusting nations that they were in the Middle East at that time. Amalek was the only one who did that. And from that day on, Amalek became the symbol of the anti-Semite, the one who just hate the Jews, because also the Torah doesn't say why Amalek attacked the Jewish people. All the other nations, even Moab and Ammon and all the others, we read about the reason why they attacked the Jewish people. Sometimes they will say, hey, you don't want us to go through our land, or hey, we are afraid of you, like Pharaoh, for example, right? Pharaoh said that he killed the firstborn because he was afraid of the Jewish people. There were too many. There is always a reason, good or not, like it or not, but they had a reason that they could, in their own mind, they can justify it. But for Amalek, the Torah purposely does not offer any reason why. So the rabbi said the reason Amalek attacked the Jewish people is just because they don't like us. So from that day, the name of Amalek was synonym of anti-Semite. David Grossman said, what's Amalek, Esau's grandson? I can't remember all the genealogy. I trust your word for it. Because, so again, Amalek was the anti-Semite. In fact, before the Nazis were the Nazis, right? In this day and age, somebody who is like a committed anti-Semite, we call that person a Nazi. Before the Nazis were a thing, the anti-Semite used to be called an Amalekite. You know that? The Amalekite were the anti-Semite of uh, of the time, and God always commanded to destroy Amalek, but nobody ever in the Torah was successful into doing that. The one that was the closest was Saul. He was able to obliterate each one of the Amalekites of the time except that he spared the king. I guess, you're the king, I'm the king, I won't kill you, I will take you prisoner. But that guy, the king of Amalek, was alive long enough to have more children. And then, even though at the end God gets angry with Saul and Saul will go and kill the king of Amalek, was too late. The seed of Amalek was still going around on the area. So, but he was the closest one that was able to destroy Amalek. The other famous Amalekite was Haman, the story of Purim. Remember the one who wanted to kill Queen Esther and all the Jews at the time? It says specifically that Haman was an Agagite. Agagite. I said, well, was an Agagite, not an Amalekite. Well, except that Agag was the king of Amalek that King Saul, failed to kill. So now we read, when he said that Agag was alive long enough for him to have more children, then we come to learn that one of the children of Agag, one of the descendants of Agag, was Haman. And because of the failure of Saul, we have to pay the consequences many years after during the story of Purim. Okay? So there is a whole thing here about Amalek and everything that Amalek did in history affecting the Jewish people. So, again, as I mentioned before, it's going to be many warnings in the Bible, in Scripture, for the Jewish people to remember Amalek, right? To remember what they did and to try to obliterate Amalek, to make Amalek or what Amalek represents go away. We are still trying. We haven't been able to eliminate anti-Semitism in the world. We all know that. Okay, so let's go to this week's parsha. This is towards the end, almost at the end, the last couple of verses. And it says, ויאמר אדוני אל משה, כתוב זאת זיכרון בספר, ושים באוזני יהושע, כי מאחו אמחה את זכר המלך מתחת השמיים. And the Lord said to Moses, write this as a memorial in a book, and recite it in the years of Joshua, that I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Okay? So we have here the case that it's not just to remember, it's that write it down so you can read about it and you won't forget for sure about Amalek. And it's interesting that God asked Moses to write it down. Because as I was mentioning at the beginning with the funeral that I did this morning of Isaac Godfrey, the Holocaust survivor, he went around and he told his stories many times. But he felt that wasn't enough, so he wrote a book about his life. And it's very common, somebody who goes around telling their story, or everywhere from Holocaust survivor to keynote speakers from anything, like public speakers that they have a story to tell. They tell the story, but they also write a book as a follow-up to be sure that people can properly understand what they are saying. Because sometimes when you just tell the story casually, it's not the same that putting all the details in a book. Stories usually are told within the frame of 30 minutes, 1 hour. It's not enough. Could be misunderstandings or information is missing. So you don't want that to happen. And that's why God said to Moses, it's not just about you telling Joshua, also write it down. That's why I want to share with you the next story that is it's funny, but it's going to make. I want to explain this point with a funny story. Listen to this. It says in 1998, and it's a real story. A judge in Denver, Colorado, was presiding over a civil trial when she noticed, the judge, that a screw must have fallen out of the Venetian blinds over a window on the right side of the courtroom, and they were beginning to give away. As the window treatment were suspended directly over the jury box, the judge was concerned. A screw must have fallen out, and the shades were beginning to tilt precariously. So she did not want to interrupt the testimony of one of the litigants and quickly scribbled a note and motioned for the court officer. So, come here. With a look of concern and without even directing her attention toward him, she handed the note to the court officer. The officer looked at the note and immediately raced from the courtroom for assistance. Within minutes, an ambulance, sirens blaring, screeched to a halt in front of the courthouse. The paramedic raced to the courtroom, stretcher opener fully prepared to treat a stroke victim. The startled judge looked up in horror as she protested the onslaught of medics until they handed her the note she had given to the court officer. In her own hand, it read, "Blind on the right side. Send for immediate assistance." See, sometimes we have to be careful that the message gets properly understood. In fact, there is a rabbi who wrote about this story. Listen to this. It said, instructions that deal in life or death situation can be easily misconstrued. Wars have been fought, lives have been lost, and nations defeated due to the homonymic misinterpretation. Um, yeah, I remember when I studied at school about the homonyms, things that they sound the same but they're spelled differently. For example, it's a very interesting thing. So the formidable foes were on the verge of defeat all too often in Jewish history when misplaced compassion led to the progenitors who returned the Jewish kindness with murderous onslaught. And so, writing messages or telling stories were not enough. The message has to be oral and written, spoken and recorded, documented and preserved. For hatred and evil must be eradicated in our minds, in our mouth, with our ears, and with our quills as well. David Grossman, not as funny as the jokes you tell preceding your sermons. Yeah, but that's why I never told that before a sermon. I don't think it's so funny, but I think it's not really a joke. It's a real story, so I don't think it qualifies. But this is true, and I see this thing that Rabbi Kamenetsky is writing here happening with the Holocaust, right? How the stories get distorted all the time. So thank God that it's not just about the oral stories from survivors, but there is video footage, audio footage, books written, photographs, everything to document and supplement all the oral records from the survivors. So it's very important. So things are going to be remembered the right way, and nobody can distort the truth. Okay, so this is the same with Amalek. It's almost like God knew back then when God talked to Moses and said, look, keep record of everything, because won't be surprised that in the future somebody will try actually to justify Amalek, to say that, well, they really weren't that bad. Maybe you're misunderstanding what they did, right? So we need to keep track of all of this. It's extremely important. Extremely important. Now, and it also talks about. Let me read this, and I will tell you what I want to say. It said Joshua's strength. Joshua, the next in command after Moses died. Joshua's strength was his constant involvement in Torah study. Thus, he was best suited to challenge Amalek, whose strength was born in the laxity the children of Israel demonstrated in toiling in Torah. As Midrash Mechilta noticed that the name of the battle site, Rephidim, come from the weakness, Rapha, in Hebrew, of the Jews in Torah, which allowed Amalek to approach. Why is this? Because the Torah says that Amalek attacked the weak, but now this rabbi is taking the concept of the weak as a metaphor of the ones who neglected their quote unquote Torah study, because the Torah hasn't been revealed yet. But the one who didn't strengthen their faith and their connection with God, and they allowed Amalek to harm them. So one of the ways that we protect ourselves from the Amalek of the generation is by strengthening our relationship with God, with the community, by reading about your history. I think the Torah, even the concept of Torah here is metaphoric. It's not just the Torah. It's about everything. We have to know what happened with Amalek. We have to know every detail of what happened during the Holocaust. Nobody will do that in your behalf. You have to do it yourself. And if we don't get familiar with that, if we don't study it and we review it, then is when Amalek, the Amalek of the generation, will have a way to get at us. It's very important for us to be like Joshua. So I like that Joshua gets credit here for being a diligent study or student, a diligent student of Moses, eager to know the history, the past, what happened. So it's a so he was the one who understood Amalek the most. Now let me close this. It says, furthermore, when Moses specifically asked Joshua to go out to war, he used the command tse, tse in Hebrew, a word which implies you, yourself, go out. Convey that the key to victory was in Joshua's hand and in his merit. In every generation, the strength of the Jewish people is the strength of its Torah. And this is something that we cannot delegate on anybody. It's our responsibility. I sometimes think anti-Semitism is our problem. We shouldn't expect somebody else to solve our problem. We should be the first one. We should be the first one getting our hands into tackling anti-Semitism and educating and whatever we can do. Okay, I think this is a very important thing that we should all have to understand. Any other comment, please? I would love to read it in the chat. I always love when you guys share your comments with me. I think it's very important that that we do that. Now, now that we understood what happened with Amalek, I want to go to this other text that, even though appears before in the Torah, I wanted to study this after we read the end of the parsha, because I believe that this text over here has somehow a connection with the Tu B'Shvat celebration that we are about to observe in the Jewish calendar. And that's why I wanted to reverse the order yeah, of that. Randy, you said Amalek seems to be growing all around us. Well, I don't think they're growing. I think they're more visual. And let me tell you something that I forgot to say. Let me go here so you can see me. We don't need the text right now. Let me tell you something that the Torah I believe the Torah is very explicit at saying that Amalek attacked the weak, okay, the ones without energy, the one who were tired. That's what it said, the one who were tired. And I believe that when the Torah says that, it's not really criticism to Amalek. Oh, how dare you attacking the weak? I think it's a criticism to the people of Israel. How dare you allowing yourself to be weak? You understand the difference? How did you allow yourself to be weak and to be tired? This is something you cannot afford. Because if so, and this comes from spiritual weakness and also physical weakness. That's why in this generation there is lots of people encouraging Jewish people around the world, for example, to take lessons of self-defense and martial arts. Well, I'm not really into it. Too bad. You have no option. You have no option. I believe that every Jew should know how to defend himself or herself. It's extremely important. That's why I always I send my son to martial arts. He takes Muay Thai, which is some people would say it's quite aggressive as a martial art. Is for those of you who don't know what Muay Thai is, it's like kickboxing, but you can also use knees and elbows in your striking. Sometimes he doesn't want to go, but I had a conversation with him, and he understands it's important for him to learn how to defend himself, and it is important for all of us. Either you can go take jiu-jitsu, you can go take Muay Thai, you can go take karate. Try to take something that is useful, right? There are some martial arts that they are beautiful, but they are not useful as self-defense. So, yeah, go take Krav Maga if you are lucky enough to have one in your city. Here in Winnipeg, unfortunately, there used to be one. There is one now, but it's kind of small. They don't teach kids. So, yeah, it's very important. And I learned that from this week's Parsha because God is blaming us for the attack, for the success on Amalek's attack because we allow ourselves to be weak. That is very important for us to understand. So now we can go back to the text. And it says here, we are going to switch now to start studying a little bit about Tu B'Shvat to prepare ourselves for the Tu B'Shvat observance that is next week. Okay, it says, Vayavo Eilima, and they came to Elim, the place, and there were 12 springs of water and 70 date palms. Which is interesting because why do I need to know, or why do we need to know that there were 12 springs of water and 70 date palms? You know, if you tell me that it was an oasis, there were hundreds of thousands of people there, right? So just 12 springs of water and 70 date palms doesn't seem to be much for everything. So the rabbi said, well, maybe it's talking about something else. We are going here we have to dig a little deeper into this verse to try to understand what is the metaphor behind these words. Do you have any guesses? Talking to all of you there. Do you have any guesses about why this verse will mention the 12 springs and 70 date palms? I will give you a minute. And I don't have a coffee today. I didn't have time to do it. I just, as I mentioned, just came back from a funeral and didn't have time to prepare the class and to have my coffee. So I will have it after. But I would like to hear if you have any guess of why the 12 springs and 70 date palms. Okay, you see, you have that. David Grossman, you say 12 tribes. Good guess. Jerome, you say 12 spring, 12 trees, 12 tribesmen, trees, 70 nation. Okay, very good. So, good guesses. Good guesses. Let's see what the rabbis have to say about this. Okay? The 12 springs they found corresponded to the 12 tribes of Israel, the families of the 12 sons of Jacob, and the 70 date palms were one for each of the 70 learned elders of Israel. Almost there, you got it. The concept of 70 nations will come later on in history, but there was this midrash saying that there were 70 elders in Israel, that their role was to learn the whole Torah together with Joshua. In fact, they said after Moses died, Joshua kept repeating the Torah to all these elders. So, because remember, the Torah was given in two different forms. Moses finished writing everything on parchment before he died, but also Moses received all these beautiful explanations on how to understand the Torah from God all along the 40 years in the desert. So, all that information was at risk to be lost forever. So, Moses was repeating all that to Joshua and the elders so they will keep that alive. Eventually, that went from generation to generation until it was written down, and that's what we call the Talmud. Okay, so Rashi will say the 12 springs of waters were to honor the 12 tribes, and the 70 date palms were one for each of the 70 learned elders of Israel. That's Rashi. But now Rabbi Behaye ben Asher ibn Alawa, he said they were placed there to show individual honor to each of them, in the sense that they will never forget that each one of the tribes are equally important to God, and each one of the elders were equally important. Because that is the problem when you have a group of people that they may feel ignored, or they may feel that nobody cares what they do or they don't. So this was early on in the journey to let them know that each one of them was important, each one of them was loved, each one of them was special and necessary, incredibly necessary, and that's why we have this. But it's interesting that also early on we already have a reference of a tree representing the scholars. Okay, and this is something that is going to come later on. For example, when we read the book of Psalms, the book of Psalms said, "Tzaddik katamar ifrach." It said the tzaddik, the righteous person, will flourish like the palm tree. Same connection here when a palm tree is used to honor one of the wise men, one of the scholars. We can call them one of the tzaddik of that generation. So the reference in the book of Psalms that the righteous person would flourish like the palm tree, it could be also a reference for this section of the Torah. Now, why the palm tree connected to the scholars or to the tzaddik? And I heard one explanation that I love. And it is that, number one, the palm tree takes forever to yield fruits. The dates takes a long time, longer than other trees like apple trees or citrus trees, that they will bear fruits right away. It takes time for a righteous person or a scholar to bear fruits. And this is something that is very common with students, right? Shelley said, "Tzadik katamar kablat Shabbat." Yeah, the same one. Tzadik katamari ifrach. Yeah, that's reference. And Jerome, you said, Etz Chaim is another, the tree of life is another reference that we have. Yes. But they said that's why the scholar or the tzaddik is represented by the palm tree, because sometimes in this world we study, and we feel that we don't make that there is so much more to learn, that doesn't matter how much you study, you don't make a difference, or doesn't matter how much good you bring to the world, it feels that it's never enough. There is always more evil, that they are undoing what you do. So don't worry. We are like palm tree, right? You have to trust the same way that a farmer will trust that the palm tree will keep growing at a due time, the fruit will be there. The farmer never think, oh, maybe they won't give fruit because it's taking too long. No, they know. They know for sure that even though they take long, the fruits are going to be there. So for us, that we are Torah learners, like people who come to this class, or people who are out there doing great things, an act of kindness, etc., we have to trust that our actions are noticed, same way that the palm tree was there to let the elders and the sages to know that they are noticed, that they are special. So we are noticed. God knows what we are doing. God knows that you are taking an hour during your day on Thursday to study Torah. That doesn't go unnoticed. Even if you don't have a physical palm tree in your honor, there is a spiritual palm tree honoring you right now. So we have to remember that. And Leah Ehrenberg, you said lesson from nature. Yes, also, that is also a reminder, great point, to look around, because we have lots of lessons from nature, things that can inspire us, and we can learn from nature. Especially, I will say, one of my favorite lessons from nature is to be patient. Because you cannot, for example, and farmers know this, you cannot speed up the process. When you plant and you nurture, there is a season for everything, and you have to learn to wait, and then eventually it's going to happen. So we have to learn to trust in God, or also in what we do, the same way the farmer trusts in the cycles of nature. Okay? And I like it because nature, things take a long time, and they have to learn to wait. David Grossman, are there any palm trees in Winnipeg? Inside? No. Not here, unfortunately. Not here. Not here. And Shelley said, to everything there is a season. Correct. And everything there is a season. It's at the Leaf, probably. Yeah, maybe at the Leaf, at the Cinnabon Park. Yeah. Let's continue. Now, let's talk more about these palm trees to honor the sages, and the streams of water to honor the tribes. Listen to this. The number of springs signified God's plan to encourage each tribe to maintain its individuality. As they come to draw water, each tribe frequented its own spring placed there to honor them. The Talmud enumerates that the tribes of Zebulun had a disposition to sailing and commerce, where the tribe of Issachar were sages and scribes. In fact, I know this because my son is studying at school right now. He's in grade 6. The symbols of the tribes. It looks like every tribe had a symbol, and they had their own flag. So they were flag bearers, that they were marching as they were going through the desert. So it was very easy for Moses to recognize where the different tribes were. So they have their own symbols. So the symbol of Zebulun was a ship in the water. Even though they and I don't know if they did something like that in Egypt, or how they developed that, but it's very interesting. Yeah, let's continue. So the Torah clearly testifies to God's will that differences should persist. When the people of Israel stood at Mount Sinai, Moses, was commanded to erect 12 monuments corresponding to the 12 tribes, and throughout their journey in the wilderness they encamped separately, each tribe under its own flag. Further, when Moses was commanded to make the garments for the high priest, certain garments had the name of the 12 tribes engraved on them. Every tribe possessed its peculiar characteristics that were a key component to its contribution to Jewish nation. These characteristics were God given and therefore mandated maintenance and cultivation. Thus, like a single body needs different limbs and organ systems, each performing its own function according to its makeup to enable the survival of the entire organism, so too the tribes, although unified as one body in brotherhood, had different talents and proclivities. An additional purpose in maintaining the individual status of the tribe was that it reduced the chance of a disloyal innovator seizing power and turning the nation away from God. Since each tribe later possessed its own land and talents, this would prevent the renegade tribe from influencing the rest of the children of Israel. Because of this, so by the way, let me stop there for a minute. This is also something that we see early on in the Torah, the story of the Tower of Babel, when it says that there was one language. What does it mean, one language? One of the interpretations is that it was uh, it was mandated. It was an obligation for everyone to use the same language, to think the same way, by force. And then the consequence of that, God realized that keeping everybody one language, one thought, one group, this is what is going to happen again in the future. So the quote unquote punishment was to scatter the people all over the earth, and each one of them will have now their own language, their own traditions, etc. So this is not the first time that we see something like this. It already happened during the Tower of Babel. So here too, God said, you know what? It's good for each one of you to have your own individuality. We don't need everybody to be extroverts. Some people are extroverts, some people are introverts, and that's fine. Some people are artists, some people are business people. That's fine. You don't have to change because what somebody else is doing. It's good to nurture your own talents and your own nature. So your contribution to society will come from realizing what your talents are. And then you can nurture your talents and not wasting your time trying to do something that you were not born to do. Like that. Jerome, you said, what about the two kingdoms of Israel and Yehuda? Well, that's happened after when they started to fight anyway, right? It's it's unfortunate that that happened, that they couldn't coexist in their differences. Sometimes it's also the consequence of being different that we cannot tolerate other people's ways of doing it. It's what happened in these days that we have orthodox, conservative, reform, reconstructionist, renewal, and things. And it's good. I take that as a blessing that we could be different. But there is also, then when you mix the intolerance with that, then you have other problems, right? Yeah. And then Shelley, it's difficult when one grows up in a society that encourages conformity. And yes, and you can see this in especially now in North America and many places of the world, where it doesn't matter if it's the left or the right who is in power, they try to mold everyone to their liking, right? If you don't think like them, you are the other, and you have to be taken care of. We should learn that that's not the goal, because then we are trying to go back to the times of the Tower of Babel, and then we all know how that ended. Let's continue. Last paragraph here. Because of this principle, they respected each other's customs and idiosyncrasies, and they learned to refrain from making light of the manners or practices of the other tribes. This is so important. Learning to refrain from making light or fun of the manners or practices of other people. How important is that? Looks like we haven't learned it yet. Now, it was obvious to them that God favored these differences, and they were united by loyalty to one God and His law. So it looks like in those days they did learn that. They were able to figure out that at least they have one thing in common, the love for God and the belief in God. Beyond that, each one of them had their own way of doing things. And it was a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing. Yeah. Let's continue. Now, it is commonly observed that there are still differences between groups of loyal Jews in their traditions concerning nuances of Hebrew pronunciations, garb, and details of their outlooks on issues. Some of these differences may find their way back to those differences expressed by differing tribes. However, even for those not traced back to the 12 tribes, we still understand that there is nothing wrong with differences in tradition. Some groups of Jews excelled in Torah study, right? Others in prayer, others in act of chesed, loving kindness. And this is so true. You go to Israel and you will see this. That there are people that all they do is to study Torah all day. They're all they do is praying all day. And there are others that they sometimes, I don't know, maybe they don't even believe in God so much, but they go and do things for others. Right? How great will it be if we can accept each other, that we have different roles to fulfill in this society. It's important to have people studying Torah. So if you ever want to go and study Torah, you will have somebody who will know Torah to teach you. And if you want to do something for others, there will be a group already doing it so you can join them. So it's very important to do that. Now, some groups of, let's say, so we are like one unified body with different limbs. It will be unthinkable that one should appreciate one of the organs in the human body but not the other. Every aspect of the body is necessary and purposeful. So too with the people of Israel. So Leah, you say here, maybe we can implement this wisdom of past civilization and focus on nurturing gift. Yeah. Well, this is something that I believe at least is more present in liberal Jewish movements to try to point that out. Unfortunately, it's taking longer for more traditional groups to get to accept that. Not everybody, but some of them. Brenda, you said it is so unfortunate that in today's society humans are not able to communicate and allow different views and opinions. Yeah, it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate because, but it's yeah, it is unfortunate. It's that we get offended so easily, and that prevent us from talking to each other. So it's really difficult. But I personally don't give up. I don't give up trying to teach this message that we should accept each other. And for example, when we are talking about the observance of Judaism, we should follow our heart, because it will tell you what is your way to connect with tradition, to create a relationship with God, and so forth. That's why I think it's important to get to know each other very. You see, you need to get to know yourself very well to begin with. If you don't know yourselves, then it's very difficult to do that, right? Leah said, we also have to spend more time in offline spaces. Yeah, for more healthy communication. That's true. But if there is something that I learned, for example, during the COVID pandemic, is that there is always a group in society that they don't do well in offline groups. They are more introvert, and all of a sudden being more things online was a blessing for people who don't do well in large groups. So to me, even to this thing, is great to allow people to be the one deciding what works better for them. So that's why I think both groups should coexist, and we should get used to that. Coexist, things online, things in person, because sometimes it ministers to different groups of people that they have different needs and how to connect. Sometimes it could be um, because they are, yeah. Jerome, what you said, I don't want to. We have lost the what you wrote there. I see S and stars. We have lost the of listening without forming answers in advance, the other finishing their points. Yep. Yeah, we are opinionated. It's true. It's true. Let's continue. Now, let's go back to the trees. Yeah, Jerome. Sorry, you are writing that if what you can do is to spell the word like a S dash the next one dash the next one dash. So, and then I would say because we have a very strict filter, and it's probably part what you're writing is part of another word that contains the same thing that is bad word. So that I'm sorry about that, but it's that's the thing. So back to the trees. A man was traveling through the desert, hungry, thirsty, and tired, when he came upon a tree bearing luscious fruit and affording plenty of shade, underneath which ran a spring of water. He ate of the fruit, drank of the water, and rested beneath the shade. When he was about to leave, he turned to the tree and said, Tree, oh tree, with what should I bless you? Should I bless you that your fruit be sweet? Your fruit is already sweet. Should I bless you that your shade be plentiful? Your shade is already plentiful, that your spring of water should run beneath you. A spring of water runs beneath you already. Uh, there is one thing with which I can bless you. May it be God's will that all the trees planted from your seeds should be like you. And also, what a beautiful thing to say. And this is also about our response, because maybe God's will, but yes, we are partnering with God into bringing blessings to this world. So when we appreciate the trees, and when we appreciate nature, and we ask God, may we have more trees and things, remember that because we are partners with God, is also our responsibility to be sure that it's going to be more trees. It's not something that is exclusively in God's hands. Yeah, may God will and you do it. God, do your magic and create more trees. It's our responsibility to take care of nature. At the very beginning, in the creation of the world, God made us the masters of creation. A master, and that was misunderstood. It doesn't mean that we can do with nature whatever we want. A true master, a true ruler, is the one who takes care of all the details to be sure that we can guarantee that nature will be there for the next generation. So hopefully this is something that you will have the opportunity to explore and to understand during Tu B'Shvat. And if you can come to the concert next week, will be even better. Remember, the concert is not going to be streamed. That is, as Leah says, it's going to be an offline space. Okay, for all of us to be here in person enjoying the concert. It may be recorded, and we may upload the whole concert or part of the concert at a later time. But this is going to be an offline experience. We don't like to do everything offline, but once in a while, we do have some of the things like that. So it's something that, if you can make it, it will be good. You see, let's leave it there. Let's leave it there for today. I think this is a good point, to end it. And we are going to study more about Tu B'Shvat next week. So I hope you're going to be there. And then next week, next Thursday in the evening, 7 p.m., we have um, this wonderful concert. And how do we call it? Because we have a special name for the concert. Let me see. Uh, Here we call it Tu Bishvat Climate Concert. Climate Concert. Okay, and it's going to be at the Shari Zedek at 7 p.m., 7 to 9 p.m. around that. We're going to have refreshments after, and it's going to be amazing because we are going to have music from Cantor Leslie, myself, Janet Getz from Temple Shalom, and David Vamos from Temple Shalom, Mal Magorel, the Ruach Choir, and my youth choir, Dor Hadash Youth Choir, is going to come and perform as well. It's going to be a mini concert from them, and we are have a couple of musicians coming to enhance the concert. It's going to be amazing. Okay, next Thursday, uh, next Thursday, and you have to go to our website to sign up. Adults $10, children ages 12 and under is going to be $5. If you have any questions, let us know. Contact us. It's going to be amazing. Okay. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Remember, this class is going to be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. If you want to play it again, if you miss anything, you have a chance to catch this class again. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Take care of nature. Come to the concert. Hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.